research about the school. One common question that everybody keeps coming up, every school comes up with is, why my school? Why? What is it about LLU that attracts you? What is it about NYU? Why do you want to study here? First pointer is A, please spend some time researching about the school. Look at all the aspects that are interesting and attractive to you personally. Do not make it a generic statement. You can pick three, four aspects, say clinical aspect, any particular research project that the school encourages or its faculty is engaged in that might appeal to you, your background. It could be related to what you've already done or something that you want to do. You can even talk about cohort size. A big cohort helps me, engage with more people. A smaller cohort means I get more personalized attention from the faculty. You can even talk about the specific location. I love New York. It reminds me of my own city. So make it as specific as you can and include personal instances. Like, for instance, I remember somebody talking about there's a song in Tamil, a movie song, which quotes New York. And this particular person had actually gone ahead and translated that in the New York University supplemental answer. That person is in New York, NYU today. I'm not saying you should do that to get in. And we don't know if all songs have quotes like that, but that's just an example of how personalized you can make it, how specific you can make it. Um, Basically, find interesting or appealing aspects about the university, make it as specific as you can, match it to your profile. You have a good answer. UCSF especially has five, six questions. Raksha, will that also help? Do you also have insights that can apply to all schools?
Yes, yes, you're totally right when it comes to researching about a school. So specifically, if you talk about UCSF, their questions are based. Their questions are mostly about your experience, your dental experience. Like this year, they've changed it to how many restorations have you done, what type of materials have you used. So it is very personal. Like they really want to know your dental experience. So that those questions you can definitely answer based on your experience. But other questions in UCSF are how the basic questions are how have you prepared yourself for dentistry in USA. So you can talk about your dental experience in your home country as well as in USA. So how have if you have done shadowing, what have you learned in shadowing? Like you have you have acquainted yourself with the insurance systems that are available in USA, or you can also talk about how you have learned you have done any certification on HIPAA, because that's a major component about dentistry in USA. So you can talk about that as well when it comes to answering UCSF questions. And they have one specific question they ask us. So tell us something unique about yourself outside of dentistry that could be useful or beneficial to the incoming school. So that you can make it something personal or professional as well. So for example, for that question, when I had answered, I spoke about how I was a multilingual and how I have studied across 8 different schools in India during my entire childhood. So I spoke about how it is very easy for me to adjust with new people, and how I make sure that I bring about cohesiveness in a group, and how that would be helpful to bring uh, helpful to bring a very harmonious
Yes.
relationship even during the 2 to 3 years of our college life. So that is how I spoke about. You can also talk about, let's say you're somebody who's a baker. They're very small tiny things. Okay, let's say you're a baker, you can talk about how you indulge in baking as a experience which reduces your stress. So you would make sure you would bring baked goods to your class and make sure everybody is well fed in your class, and talk about how way to somebody's heart is through their stomach, and I'll make sure everybody in my class is happy. Even such things are such things are also wanted. Don't think that schools only want to look at your academic profile. Don't think they just want to know how good you can do a class 2 or how beautiful your RCT is. Yes, of course, they are a part of your application. They're also looking for professional attributes. They're also looking for how you're able to have interpersonal relationships. All of that is also very important. So as Meenakshi said, like somebody wrote about New York. So I would just want to share my experience when it came to UCSF interview. I mean, I don't know how many of you, you guys must be Gen Z. I don't know how many of you know this, but there was a English sitcom called Full House. It was way back in the 80s.
Yeah.
So it starts with the Golden Gate Bridge. Like the show starts
Correct.
with the Golden Gate Bridge. Yeah, and I watched that sitcom when I was in my school. So that had a very big impact on me. Like every day looking at Golden Gate Bridge. So when I actually was talking to my interviewer one on one, that I made sure I told him about that. That I have always had this fascination with Golden Gate Bridge, and every time I look at it, it just gives me a lot of perspective in life and things like that. Make sure you're personalizing your application. Don't let it be run in the mill application or run in the mill statements. Don't write that.
Absolutely. So basically, point planters. This is what we call planters. You plant them, and it will give you a recall value. There are lots of people who are going to have similar profiles. So, in addition to your traits, your professional attributes, and your clinical proficiency, what is it that can make you stand out? However, that's not a deal breaker. It's just an added value. Okay. In the same vein, the next question is for Minnesota personal statement, what are they looking for? Any personal statement that you can tailor to a specific school. Minnesota, UTL also has a provision for a statement. So all these schools, and that said, even UPenn and LLU have answers which are 3,000 characters, 4,000 characters strong, as good as a personal statement for practical purposes. The way to approach it: A, research your school. B, make it as specific as you can. C, match it to your profile. For instance, the school has a big community outreach initiative. In my past, in addition to the community dental camps that were part of college, I organized a lot of camps in my village. I am from a small town, and dental awareness there was zero. So I used to do it out of my own initiative. Or I have a social media platform where I educate people on dental health or basic techniques of flossing and things like that. So you position it. You like you match everything if you can. Otherwise, position it as an aspiration of yours. This is exactly what I want to do. I was not able to do it in the past, or this is what I've always wanted to do, and I think this school or this program will give me the perfect launch pad. So for any personal statement and any of your supplemental answers, please make it specific. Try and make it a little personal. Creativity is not a big deal, but if you can make it creative, well and good. There is one question which I think will perfectly be answered by Dr. Raksha. How and where to include MDS curriculum data? You want to take it,
Yeah,
Dr. Raksha?
yeah, sure. So in our experience section, we have a drop down of on the CAPID application. We have a drop down of options. I think, yeah.
That's so cool.
No,
Yeah, thank you.
24,
yeah.
Can you, anybody who's not answering, is it okay if you mute yourself?
I know, 24.
I think it's Smriti. Smriti, can you yeah, she's muted herself.
you.
Yeah, sorry.
Sorry.
So on the CAPID, we have a drop down of our experiences that you can add. So there is dental related experience, volunteering, etc. that you would have seen. When it comes to MDS experience, so you have a various experiences that you have gone through in MDS. It could be teaching, it could be conducting camps, okay, it could be your clinical experience, it could be your research. So whatever you have experienced in MDS, you can categorize them into a lot of things in experience. For example, your whatever dental camps you have done during your MDS comes under volunteering in your experience section. Similarly, if all of everybody who has done MDS would have taken classes for third year and final year BDS students. So, and that is also a requirement for your degree. So that could come under teaching, and under teaching again you need to mention that you have received academic credit for it. So again there are three categories in that. So you have you would have got academic credit for that, and then you would have done your thesis, your short study, your library dissertation. All of that will come under your research in the experience category itself. So in research you will write as a for that also you will receive your academic credit, right? So you will receive your academic credit. Elaborate about it in the experience section. So as a postgraduate student, I have conducted so and so research as a primary investigator, and write 2 or 3 sentences about what that study was, if it was a survey or an in vitro study or a in vivo study or whatever it was, and if you can briefly mention about the result of the study. Similarly, with your library dissertation as well, you can write it as conducted extensive research on this particular topic. I collected all information that has been printed, either print or the books or the articles, and then it was published as a library dissertation as a part of my academic requirement. So that is how you write your library dissertation or your short study. The clinical experience also that you have gained during your MDS, you can write it in the uh, as a dental experience. That again you would have received academic credit for it, right? Because you would have had quota for it. So let's say if you have done endo, you would have a quota for this many RCTs, this many aesthetic restorations. So write that as a post. So you will start your experience as a postgraduate student. I have done so and so, this many cases. So that is how you can add your MDS experience as well on your CAPID application.
I think that's a valid point, and a lot of master students who pursue masters in health informatics and public health or biostatistics and all that, I think even they can use this section to disclose more of their curriculum data. Do we have a lot of MBA students here? Can I have a show of hands? Because we do have a few questions, and Dr. Raksha is okay. 1, 2, okay. And we have people pursuing masters in the US. I know one for sure. Ayush is there. Anybody else? Okay. 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 Yeah, because Dr. Raksha is a master's student herself, so grad herself, so she'll be able to clarify all doubts related to that. Yeah. Sorry, Raksha, you were saying something.
Yeah, so when you were talking about MPH and other masters, I think on the experience section, you also have employment details, research, volunteering. So you can add it in that, but I don't think you can add it in dental experience until and unless you have had a dental related experience. Yeah. So everything else. So I have had somebody asked me that I was doing calligraphy. I was teaching calligraphy to children during my pastime. So how do I add it? So does it come under teaching or does it come under any other? So you can write it as long as you are compensated for it and it has nothing related to dentistry. Maybe you can write it under employment. So there could be people who are actually working in a coffee shop or any other place. So you can write it under employment. So that also counts as experience.
Any non-dental employment should be categorized ideally as employment.
Employment, yeah.
Okay, I think we do have a couple of master's questions, but let me address smaller questions before that. Can my CV be around 5 pages long? Okay, our take on this, ideally 3 is perfect, but if there is enough to talk about as long as it doesn't look like it's been stretched or fluffed up. 4 pages is okay. Some amount of alignment, formatting, choosing a different format might help you display it in a crisper fashion, and you can bring your CV down to at least 4 pages. 5, it's not wrong. We've seen people get in with 2 pages CVs. We've seen people with 7 pages CVs also getting in. But ideal count, if you ask us, in our experience, it would be around 4 max. How much was yours, Raksha? Just curious.
So mine was around 5 pages.
Yes.
So it was actually going more than 5 pages. So what I did was I changed the font. I made sure the
Mm.
font was smaller, and if I could arrange it on the right side
Right
or
side.
columnize or
Big.
whatever. So that was a normal CV. But when you see a CV for schools like UOP or UNLV, where they have their own template, sometimes it goes beyond that as well. So unless a school has specified a particular CV template, that's okay. Even if it crosses more than 5 pages, it should be okay for those schools. But your general CV, I think, as Meenakshi said, keep it around 3 to 4, only for relevant information. If it is going more than that with relevant information, that's okay. That's okay too, as you said.
Like CU, for instance, mandates it to be not longer than 4. So
4, yeah.
I think 4 is safe. Anything
Yes, yes,
more is not wrong, but 4 is what we would generally recommend.
yes, yes.
There's one LOR question that we've often heard, so we've often fielded, so I'm answering that. Should I upload extra LORs from dentists I've shadowed, even though they are old? Okay, LORs are a fairly tricky water to navigate. A, depends on your definition of old. Websites clearly mention that LOR should not be 1 year older than 1 year. 6 months would be perfect, will make sense. 6 to 1 months is 1 year is okay, but anything which are older than 1 year is a no. Most schools do not consider them. A. B. This is a question about additional LORs over and above what is being uploaded in CAAPID portal. That is something you might have to use your discretion, where schools give you the leeway or mandate. For instance, Indiana mandates a volunteering organizations letter. So that is a no deal. You just have to upload it. You get it uploaded. But any other letter that you upload, remember that they know that you know the contents of the LOR, which means it brings down the credibility of the LOR by a tad. You don't have that cloak of confidentiality when the direct upload happens from your recommender. There's more credibility. When you are uploading it, it is considered a little less valuable. So we would not really recommend that you go ahead if they give you the opportunity. I think Boston gives you an additional 2 LORs. So if they give you the opportunity, it doesn't necessarily mean you have to go and upload everything. So, Raksha, what do you think?
Yeah, the absolutely true. So even when you're uploading your LORs, you get a thing, you get a option of, do you waive your rights
Right.
for this LOR? So it's always good to choose yes, that you waive. So you need to show the schools that you have not seen the LORs, you have had no access to it, which, as you said, it shows that you don't know the content, and it is absolutely directly coming from the evaluator. Once you have the access to the LORs, it brings down the credibility, as you said. I absolutely agree with Meenakshi. So until and unless a school specifically asks for additional LORs, even then, like if in my opinion, even if a school says you can upload additional LORs, just send them an email saying that, I do have additional LORs,
Correct.
additional LORs. Can I send? Can I ask the evaluator to send it directly to you? Just instead of me uploading it, just give it a try like that. If they say yeah, okay, then let your evaluator send it directly. Let them know that you are no way involved in it. It's directly coming from the evaluator to the school.
That's a good idea. Getting the evaluator to upload it uh, on the CAPID portal and to the school is something. that you'll have to follow up on, which most of you must have
Yeah.
struggled with. Yeah.
Yes. Yes. Totally.
Okay. Is CE important despite having a master's degree? In other words, how important are CE courses? I'll let the expert take that.
Yeah, so CE courses are important, but you cannot compare it to having a master's degree. Both are mutually exclusive. The having CE courses does not compensate for MDS, or having MDS does not compensate for CE courses. So they just want to know, outside of after your graduation, how much are you still involved in the field of dentistry? Because CE courses, by definition itself, are continuing education, right? So how much are you still involved in this field? What are you trying to what new things are you trying to learn? So I might have had an MDS in pediatrics, but that does not mean that I know everything in dentistry. So let's say I have taken a CE course in laser dentistry, or a basic implantology CE course. So it means that I'm actually interested in the field of dentistry apart from my own bubble of pediatric dentistry, right?
Mm.
So they're trying to know that, okay, what all courses have you done, what are your interests, what it could be a hands-on course, or it could be a lecture also. Okay, so that is how I would look at CE courses. And hands-on courses are always advisable
Right.
over lecture only. But yeah, it's okay even if you have just lecture CE courses also. That's fine too. I think that
Yeah.
answers the question.
That makes perfect sense. Yeah. And additionally, you don't have in your CV when you're disclosing your CE courses, if you have a number of courses in the same topic, then you can highlight at least 4 or 5 in a series so that they get to know your area of interest. Like Dr. Raksha said, they know out of your bubble what more is your cup of tea or your area of interest. And if that, it gives them a better idea of how well you fit into that school and its uniqueness. I'll take one more, I'll answer one more from our FAQs, and then I'll throw the floor open so that you'll be able to directly ask Dr. Raksha. Okay. Um, I'm planning to apply to USA via CAPIT from Canada, graduated from India. Would shadowing experience in Canada help? How many hours is the minimum? Okay, to answer that, any North American experience is much more valuable than what you have gotten back in India. So, Canada is yes, shadowing experience, assisting experience, everything in Canada is a big plus. Definitely, whatever you do in the US will take the order of precedence. Probably like USA experience, Canada experience, home country experience. That said, how many hours is the minimum? For shadowing, I don't think you can pin and say, but around 200 hours will be 100 to 150 hours is also good. Um, did you have shadowing experience or assisting experience in the US, Raksha?
Yeah, I had shadowing experience of over 500 hours.
Wow.
So
Okay.
as you said, yeah, as
Let
you
that
said,
not intimidate you, people. I'm
yeah, yeah,
sorry
yeah,
to
yeah,
cut her short,
yeah.
but
Yeah, that's what
yeah.
I wanted to say. I had that experience because I visited US more than 3 times from 2019. So
Wow.
whenever I visited, like 2 months, or whenever I could, even before I wanted to write, I mean, even before I cleared my boards, I would go and do
Hmm.
shadowing. So that's one thing. And another thing, as you said, there is no fixed number of hours for shadowing, because I personally know people who have gotten with just 2 weeks of shadowing, and I also know people who have not gotten with more than 1 year of shadowing. So shadowing is an aspect of your profile. Don't think that, okay, I have ticked this box, so that is done on your profile for admission. Yeah.
And remember something, Dr. Raksha herself, during her first cycle, she got waitlisted at 2 places. And I'm sure
Yeah.
her shadowing experience would have been much lesser back then. The key is, like what Dr. Raksha said, to do as much as you can, or at least whatever you can, whenever you can. Squeezing it in if you're, say, a final year student or still in India or in your home country, you're visiting the US only for giving exams. make the most of that time. See if you can extend it. See if you can get local opportunities, or in Canada as well. It doesn't really make much of a difference. Obviously, US has an advantage over Canada, but bottom line, keep doing it whenever you can, as much as you can. So I think that answers that question. Um, I think we can throw the floor open for direct questions. In the meanwhile, Dr. Priya in the group chat has asked, for LOA, some schools require two professors and others need two US dentists. How do we choose and how do we meet all requirements? Okay, there are two ways of looking at this. We've already touched upon this a bit. One is the acceptable combo out of the 40 schools in CAPID. The combo that most schools mandate will be one professor and one US dentist at least. Okay. For some of you, there might be no option for US dentist, maybe because you haven't had an opportunity to volunteer or shadow or assist. So, one professor, usually it's also one dean, and whatever US experience, clinical assisting or hygienist or shadowing you have, then that dentist is the typical combo. However, what I would really suggest is go back to the shortlisted schools that you have and see if this combo doesn't fit. Some school has a specification. They need two professors. Which school is that? I think it's NYU that mandates dean and not quite sure right now. So you can also mail them and ask them if this is a relaxable aspect, or if you can get the get the recommender to directly upload it. The general combo would typically be this, and you can modify it according to your choice of schools. So do that amount of research, and then you'll be able to find the perfect combination. You remember which ones you recommended, Dr. Raksha?
Yeah, so one was my BDS principal or dean because most schools ask for that.
Correct.
So your BDS dean, I think that is like you have to.
Non-negotiable.
Oh,
Yeah.
sorry, this is my iOS bubble. Yeah, yeah. So your non-negotiable is your dean. Second one is was my US dentist, and third one was my MDS professor. So that's the combination that I could, so that my MDS professor could give me could give information about my MDS journey, and then BDS dean could talk about BDS, and then a US dentist could talk about a shadowing experience in US. So I think that worked out for me.
Okay. Yeah. So, and then just match it with the school of your choice.
Schools.
Schools
Yes,
of
yes.
your choice. Yeah.
Schools. Yes.
Dr. Harshini, you've raised your hand. You have a question for Dr. Raksha, I believe. Yeah, go ahead, please. Dr. Harshini? Yeah. She left. Okay. Another question.
Yeah. Hello. Hi.
Hi.
So I wanted to ask, since I want to ask first, how many colleges did you apply, and in how many schools were you got waitlisted after you applied?
Yeah,
I just
sure,
want to
Harshni.
know.
So I am somebody who was on visitor's visa. So the number of schools that I could apply to are the least compared to any other visa that is there. So in the first cycle, I applied to 9 schools, and I got interview calls during the first thing from 2 schools, that is USC and UCSF. Then later on, Colorado, as it is in later in the cycle, I applied to Colorado as well, and I got an interview call from Colorado. I gave my interview. Unfortunately, I couldn't make it to the bench. But during my second cycle, I applied to 12 schools because I would say during my first cycle, I applied a little later in the cycle. So according to me, I would call May late. So I applied in
We
May,
agree.
and then yeah, I applied in May, and I didn't have a lot of information about few schools that I didn't know visitors could apply to also. So there were some schools like that which I missed out during the first cycle. So during the second cycle, I applied to more schools, and then I got call from University of Washington, University UCSF, then LLU and USC. So these were the schools that I interviewed in the second cycle. And then I got into UCSF, and I'm still waitlisted at USC. Of course, I'm not going to get into USC anyway. Yeah. And I even gave my interview and bench at Washington. So, University of Washington.
Okay. Yeah. Thank you so much. I just wanted to know. That's
No,
it. Thank you.
no.
Okay. Dr. Abhay has a question. While I am in the US, if I stopped shadowing after a few months, will that gap be seen negatively?
Uh, I don't think so, Abhay. So the thing is, as long as you're able to justify those gaps properly, the colleges wouldn't mind having gaps of, in your case, a few months. I have seen applicants who have not been in touch with dentistry for over 10 years and who have got back and got their seat. So as long as you're able to justify that gap as to what you have been doing in those months that you have stopped your shadowing, maybe you were preparing for your INBD, or maybe you were preparing for your TOEFL, or whatever you were doing, or you got back to your family, you were taking care of your family, or doing any other employment. As long as you can justify a gap, I think schools are fine with you having gaps in your profile. Not an issue at all.
Correct. Just to add with, we've seen enough people who've had a long gap. Their first NBD attempt was sometime in 2018, 2019. A lot of women have come up with familial commitments in between. They've decided to take a break. So, like doctor says, it's a question of how you put it across. Gaps are fine, but what you've done to gain that experience to stay in touch with dentistry, at least of late, is what matters, and how you portray it. So, I think we are covered there. Dr. Hina has a question for you. Is it true that USC only accepts candidates with a master's degree?
So I'll tell you my experience. It has been totally different for the 2 years that I have applied to. In the 2022 cycle, they actually called people only who had masters. Out of the 150 or 200 people who had interviewed in 2022 cycle, everybody had a master's degree. When I say masters, it is not just MDS. It could be your MPH, or it could be
Okay.
any other masters that you have done. But in the last cycle, they have even called fresh graduates. There were people who had just cleared their BDS in the year of 2022, and who just got out of internship and who had applied. They had even called them, okay, for the interview. I'm only talking about people who had called them for the interview. But I think in the acceptances, yeah, there is a quite a large number of students who have done masters, especially when it pertains to Indian students, at least with whom I have been in touch with. But see, you can never write off a school saying this is what they want or this is what they need. It is very different every year. It keeps changing according to what they want that particular year. It could be 1 year, it could be diversity. 1 year they would think that, okay, we want this many students who tick these boxes. I'll give you a very it sounds like, okay, I'm maybe I'm giving a negative view about it, but no, just take it like this. In 2022, USC has 34 seats, right? In 2022 cycle, USC had taken 17 Indians, which is half of their entire chunk, right? But if you go by that, this year they have only taken 6 people. And every person who has gotten, every Indian who has got into USA this year, 5 of them have MDS degrees, and one of them has a master's degree from Canada. I think it was MPH or MH, I'm not sure. So they had a master's degree. But that doesn't mean that this year, okay, again they will take very less Indians. I don't think that is how it works. It is very different, and it keeps changing every year for every school. So don't think USC is only going to take masters, so I will not apply. You never know. There could be aspects on your profile that are very attractive, and the school might think we want this person in our school, no matter even if they don't have masters. So you don't want to miss out on that opportunity.
I totally second that. It's something we would have also come up with. The thing is, never write off a school. Take your chance, unless it's something as specific as a TOEFL score or as a visa. Even then, if you have the resources, we would still suggest take a chance. You never know what is in the school's pipeline or in their mind when they are looking at your profile. And it also depends on the number of applications they receive, right? If it's going to be a huge chunk of a particular ethnicity or a particular nationality that's applying that year, then accordingly their proportion of acceptances, interviews, invites will also change. So there are a lot of factors that are not in your control, A, and B, unfortunately, factors that nobody is aware of, not Caapid Simplified, not any other service provider or the students, the applicants themselves. So take your chance if you can afford to. Don't write off any school, but yeah, certain schools may have historically certain preferences, but you never know. Your profile may be like, no, let's relax this a bit. This is one person we need to have on board, like Dr. Raksha said. Okay, there's one quick question I can. Yes, Aish, 1 second. I'm not sure if this was covered. Dr. Priya is asking. I think I'll answer that in the chat. Aish, you can go ahead.
Hi, Dr. Raksha. It
Yeah,
was an informative session. I just had a few questions regarding the application. So I'm doing my master's currently in the US. I haven't yet written my INBD because I wasn't able to balance the curriculum of my first semester and prepare for my INBD as well. So I've started preparing this semester. So I'll be applying late this year. I'm not very optimistic regarding my cycle, but I've been advised that I should still apply to whichever schools I can. Uh, a question relating to that would be, since you also applied to 2 cycles and you got into in your second cycle, so does reapplication really affect your chances of getting in? Like, does it reduce the chances in any way?
No, I think it's the opposite for most schools. Many schools actually want to see reapplicants. It just shows how committed you are or how keen you are on getting into a DDS. Especially if they've already seen you during the interviews, or they know, or in case you're waitlisted also. There are some schools which actually call reapplicants. Okay, so it also portrays about how you are able to tell the schools how you have improved yourself from your previous application to this application cycle as well. Okay, that is also important. So you were saying that if you are somebody who's applying late in this cycle, there would be many schools which will be applying for the first time next cycle, right? In case you don't, so you won't be considered a reapplicant for those schools. You're still applying for the first time to those schools.
Yeah.
So I don't think reapplication is a problem until and unless it is specifically mentioned by a school saying that do not apply if this is your second time or things like that, which I don't think is there for any school.
Yeah.
As far as I know, it's not mentioned on any school. So reapplication is not a problem as long as you're able to show your progress from your past application to this application.
Just two more questions I have, if I can.
Sure.
I would like to ask you a little about volunteering experience. If you had some volunteering experience in the US, and how long was that for?
Unfortunately, I didn't have any volunteering experience in the US. All my volunteering experience was in India. In US, I could only do shadowing. I do not have any volunteering experience. But I have heard that you could volunteer at community kitchens or community health centers. Even for example, even UCSF, if you are in San Francisco, UCSF has a community clinic where they call upon students to come and volunteer. I know applicants who have volunteered at the UCSF community clinic as well. So it could even be that, or you could volunteer at. There's volunteer match. There's a website called Volunteer Match. So you can find volunteering opportunities around you from that website in US specifically.
Thank you. Just one last question is, how long did you prepare for your bench test? And when did you start your prep from?
Yeah, so for my so that was one of another mistake that I did. So during my first cycle, I was not at all prepared for bench, and it was mainly because that time everything was happening virtually. So I thought, okay, everything is going to happen virtually. So during my second cycle, I made sure I was preparing for bench. More than 3 to 4 months of bench test preparation. Everything was home setup. Unfortunately, I couldn't attend any bench test prep course as well. Everything was through online videos, and I would prepare at home. And then we had a group of applicants who would discuss every day. We would share our preparations and pictures of our preparations, and we would have it critiqued among ourselves too, so that okay, so this is the mistake, or you're just having a fresh set of eyes about your preparation. And one thing I would tell all applicants who are preparing for bench test: please use loops when you're preparing. Do not do bench test preparation without loops. It could be the cheapest loops that you can find on Amazon, or the costliest ones. Make sure you're using loops. Do not miss out on that. But that is one thing I would definitely tell all applicants. Please use loops for preparing for your bench test.
Thank you so much, Dr. Raksha.
All the best.
Just a moment of pride for us. Ayush is our own. I mean, all of us are a community, but Ayush is literally our own. He used to be our intern, and now he's there pursuing his master's in oral biology. Is it
Oral
Ayush?
health science, yes.
Oral health science. Yeah.
Wow, that's great.
Okay. Dr. Mansi has asked, and along the same lines of the previous question, can you please briefly share your bench and interview experience at UWash?
Okay. So I can talk about the interview first, because we have interview first. The University of Washington interview is very, very short. We just had a 15-minute virtual interview, and there were two interviewers. One was a faculty and one was a alumni. So the interview was very, very fast. They're going to ask personal questions. They're going to ask questions related to your CAAPID application and your CV. Very straightforward questions. There are no tricky questions. There are no clinical questions. And you will not even know if, the questions don't, the answers don't lead to next questions. Like, let's say Colorado interview is like that, where whatever your answer, based on what you answered, it leads to a next question. But University of Washington interview, I think they had a set of questions that they were asking, like, okay, one, talk about yourself. What experience do you have? What is your biggest strength? What is your biggest failure? What do you think is your biggest achievement? Blah, blah, blah. It was a very fast, as I said, just 15 minutes. The interview was like that. But the bench test, oh my God, that's one of the, I think SIU and University of Washington have the most extensive bench test. So the bench test is divided into 2 days. The first day you have a case-based exam where you need to come up with a treatment plan. They gave us a booklet of 50 pages, and the 50 pages was just one case. So you had pictures, you had radiographs, you had medical history, you had dental history, everything. And then you had to come up with a treatment plan for every tooth in that case. That was half day. And the bench test, I don't think they left any exercise that you have learned in your BDS, FDS in the bench test. So the bench test included class 2 preparation, class 2 cavity preparation, class 2 MOD amalgam restoration, class 3 preparation, class 4 composite restoration, crown preparation, axis opening under a rubber dam, then onlay wax preparation, onlay crown build-up on a cast, and then making RPD design for mandibular and maxillary cast using a surveyor. So this was the bench at University of Washington, but people have got through. They called 30 people for bench and 10 people got through. So it's not impossible, but it is very, very lengthy. And you need a lot of practice for University of Washington bench test.
Yeah, we've heard that, and last year we did get one of our people into UWash as well. Bench at UWash is legendarily tricky. Let that not dissuade you. All you need is prep, I'm sure. Okay. Okay, Dr. Raksha, do we have? Okay. Is that me who's echoing? No, it's all okay.
I think so.
Yeah. How soon should we apply after giving INBD exams? Is it okay to apply after 2 years? I think it's similar to Aisha's question.
Yeah, you can apply. Fortunately, the INBD scores are valid for. They have a lifetime validity as long as I know. So you can apply. It doesn't matter when you apply after finishing your INBD. You can even apply after 2 years.
Um, there's another question which says you have a 2-year master's in the US. You're in your first year and you're applying to the DDS. If you get called, what do you say? From our perspective, I think the truth is the best to disclose, because unless you have plans of um, discontinuing your DDS, I mean your masters, I think you should go ahead and tell the truth, right? But
True.
that is a tricky one. Flynn, do you have any suggestion? I think she's dropped off. I saw her briefly there.
Yeah, she's there.
She's The question is, some you're doing your masters in the US. You're in your first year. You've been called for an interview. What do you tell them about your masters? You have another year of masters left. Flynn? Okay, I think we.
Hi, I am here. I'm sorry. I thought you were asking Dr. Raksha. Hi, everyone. The question is about masters, right? I think who's the doctor? Did you? So
Dr.
the
Shreya.
question is, are you, Dr. Shreya? Hi. The question is, I think, are you mentioning about your masters in the first place? Because if you don't have your transcripts and all that, and you don't want them to know, then are you telling them about it? Because
We lost her there
you
for a
don't
minute,
really
but
do that. Yes. You want to be like, I'm having trouble with my network.
you're back now.
So you usually tell them things that you want them to know and will work to your advantage. So usually when people will not matriculate before, will not graduate before the DDS program matriculates, they don't really talk about it as much. So even I would actually recommend that, because I don't think and this is not me endorsing to lie, but just saying that it doesn't make sense to apply to a school when you're halfway through it, right? At the same time, if your program is going to get completed, let's say, by, like, I don't know, the first quarter of next year or something, which means mostly before all the schools matriculate in this cycle, you will be done. If that's the case, you can very well talk about it, not a problem. So I think these are the two kind of categories that will fall to. Raksha, do you have anything to add on to that?
Yeah,
From your
that's true.
side?
And also, like, if you're going to tell the school, if I get an admission into your school, I'm going to drop my course there. It just shows that you're not committed. So the schools
Exactly.
might think, okay, so you're ready to drop even this in case we give you
Exactly.
admission, and we'll be wasting a seat for you. So it doesn't
Yeah.
reflect positively on your part.
Yes, that's right.
Okay, then we have Dr. Hina Golani. I think you've already partly answered this question as well, Raksha. Do you recommend bench prep courses?
If you can, please go ahead and do it. But if you cannot, do practicing on your own is also fine. See, even if you attend a bench test prep course, it would be a week long. They're going to give you insights onto how you prepare a certain thing or what the schools are looking for. But at the end of the day, practice also matters. You cannot just say, I have attended a bench test prep course, so I'm good to go for the bench exam. So along with bench test prep, you also need practice. So if you are able to attend a bench test prep course and you have the resources for it, go ahead. Even if you are not, it's okay. The main important thing is practicing.
Got it. So basically, the practice bench prep, whether you do it at home or outside, it's just to show. And if you're doing it at home, also make it a point to include it somewhere, to mention it somewhere in your application. Because say if you take something at a Duggins or a Stevenson's bench prep, you obviously mention it in your experiences section. But in the absence of such, scheduled courses, then you need to mention it just to show that you are still in touch, you are practicing. So try and include it. somewhere in your statement as a casual remark or in the application itself, other relevant information or additional information so that it is there. There is a record that you still are practicing. Your hands-on skills are on point. Okay, this is one of our favorite questions. Can I know if applying in June is considered a late application? And Raksha is the perfect person to answer it, having done it once in June, I think, right?
Yeah. May end. So I would definitely say you're late. Other than schools which don't, review applications based on their timeline. So fortunately, UCSF and USC are the colleges which don't apply based on, which don't invite you based on when you have applied. I think that was the reason they called me during the first cycle also. But otherwise, it's always advisable to apply before June. So even May second week also, I think you are late. I think April right now is like you're good. You're not late. You're not early. You're good. I think April is fine. But otherwise, June is late. In my opinion, June is late.
We agree. Historically, the internal deadline that we give ourselves is April end, May first week. So anything beyond mid, yeah.
Just for correlation and interpretation sake for everyone here, I just want to interpret what Raksha said, if that's okay. So she said is right. Early application is important, and June you are pulling late because a lot of schools close on June 1st, and a lot of other schools close on June 30th. A lot of, I think, West Coast schools. But also the thing to add there is what her answer was to Ayush, which is when he said he's going to apply to a few remaining schools in the year and not everything, and just give it a chance if he has the financial means to do it. She said yes, which means if there's any of you who is just not able to apply by May because of various reasons. Maybe you couldn't take INBD, maybe you couldn't take TOEFL, maybe whatever, you knew the theory but you could not give a good application by then, it's still okay. You can apply because even she did get invited. But the thing is, your chances are very less. So obviously, and the word Raksha used is advisable, because it is advisable to apply early. 100%, but just want to remind you guys that if there's anyone who's freaking out because you've not taken INB or TOEFL and thinking, crap, I'm sorry, is that okay to say? Okay, I can't apply this cycle. Please don't think that. You can, but know that your chances have dipped considerably. So if you have the means to do it and give it a chance and make this like an experimental cycle and go with an open mind, then go ahead. But yes, as early as you can. This month, like she said, is a great spot to apply in, and maybe May first week and all. But after that, you're obviously counting your chances because you get closer to schools closer. Yes, go ahead, Meenakshi.
Okay. Another question direct for Raksha. Can you share your USC and UCSF interview and bench experience? I think you've partly done your UCSF interview experience, but can you please go ahead and share?
Yeah, just in 2 sentences. UCSF again was a virtual interview. I'm talking about the recent one. I'm not talking about 2022 cycle. In 2023, UCSF interview was virtual, and it was a one-on-one. There was only one person, and though it was an open file interview, the interviewer was. Fortunately, he was not a dentist. He was a chair of the oral biology section, so he was only into research. He didn't have any information about how the clinical part of dentistry works. So it was a very, very personalized interview. So they mainly focused on your personal attributes, like why you want to come into UCSF. They even asked me a question like, now you know that UCSF, the course is 3 years. So why are you still applying? So what do you think are the advantage of the 3-year course? And it was a very general set of questions, but it was very, I was very relaxed. The information that I got from the other batchmates who have got in as well, the UCSF interview was very relaxed. It was very personalized. They really wanted to get to know you. It was around 45 minutes. So it was just one-on-one talking to each other. It was very conversational rather than asking you, okay, so tell me about this. So what is this? What is that? What is your biggest strength? What is your biggest failure? It was not like that when compared to other schools as well. So UCSF interview was like that. Coming to USC, so USC is known for their PBL session, the problem-based learning session. Even in the 2023 cycle, so our bench and PBL was divided into 2 days. So the first day you will have a problem-based learning where you will be divided into groups of 10, and you will have an exercise about, you need to discuss about a case and then come up with a diagnosis. Second day we had the bench test, and as far as I know, USC bench is one of the easiest one because you don't have to do it on a mannequin. The entire typhodont, you can take it in your hand and you can do it. It's a literal bench test where you can keep it on the bench and you can, prepare your teeth as teeth. So we had 3 exercises. The first one was a metal ceramic crown preparation on an upper premolar. The second one was an onlay preparation on a lower molar, first molar. So they had given an X-ray, and then they gave the photograph and case details about that particular tooth, and they asked us what was the. They didn't directly ask us to make an onlay. They asked us what is the most conservative restoration that you can do for this particular tooth. So that is how. And afterwards we got to know that it was an onlay. And the third exercise was a wax carving. We had to do wax carving of mandibular second premolar. Mandibular second premolar wax carving. It was a normal regular wax block that we have been practicing in our first BDS in the DADH. That is what we had to do. So that was the bench at USC.
Okay, I have a spin-off question from that. You said that the interviewer was an chair of oral biological department, and he was more into research. So did he grill you on, do you have a strong research background? Is that your cup of tea? And did he grill you on that?
Yeah, I wouldn't say I have a strong research background, but yeah, I do have research background. So I have had papers published and my short study and my theses and things like that. So so when I told him that I was a pediatric dentist, so he was talking about how he is at present researching about something in cleft lip and palate. So when he told me that, I latched on to that, and I told him that I am also interested in that. I have also treated cases of children who have had cleft lip and palate. So I tried to build forward the conversation from there. So I spoke about how I made an obturator for a child who was 2 months old, and then he spoke about, it gets very difficult, so we have been trying to do this, and so that's how the conversation went forward. So he and then I also told him, like, if I get into the school, I would love to someday do some research with you if I get the opportunity. So that is how you need to build a conversation. Don't just answer to the point and just leave it. Try to make it a personalized conversation if you get a chance. Like, this was a 45 minutes interview, and I did get a chance, but I couldn't do that with University of Washington, where it was a 15-minute interview.
Yeah, makes sense.
This is a classic example of how to steer your interview. This is exactly what you should do. It's like interview coaching, guys. If there's anyone who's looking out for interview coach, this is like, so we say that the ideology we believe in is GCS: gather, converse, and strike. Gathering your stories, conversing with the school, and striking with the school. And this is the S part, strike, where not for no reason, but then for the right reason. But then she got her own story and then struck a chord with them. This is how you should answer in interviews and how you should network in life, like as a dentist as well in the US, if you in life as well, but especially when you're meeting people in conferences, go strike a conversation with them and let them remember you. This will definitely help you in the journey. You'll make friends, you'll make acquaintances, you'll make friends in a way that you will need these people in your journey in the future in the US. You're going to build a community there, right? This is amazing. I'm really glad you said this, talked about this example, Raksha.
Yeah, I also want to add one small point. So when I was interviewing with that dentist, that professor at UCSF, so in the background, on his shelf, there was a Friends, the sitcom Friends. There was a Friends cardboard which said the Friends. And then I even spoke about that. So I was talking to him about Friends, and so he asked me, one of the things he asked me was, what do you think you bring to a group? So if you are in a group setting, what is one personal attribute that you think you would bring to a group? It could be a friends group as well. So I told him, I actually pointed out and I said, just like Monica, I'm a control freak. So this is what I do, and I like things to be neat, and I become the mom of the group and things like that. And he was like, yeah, though Monica is great, I think Phoebe is my favorite character. And even you just bring in, just make sure that he felt, make sure that the interviewer feels that, okay, I'm talking to someone who I know, not just an applicant. Just make sure you do that. It is outside of dentistry. So things like that.
It's amazing stuff. Please take notes, all of you. This
And
is
what an amazing way, especially Monica's character. Everybody has their own dynamic, but it's an amazing way to show that you have that innate leadership traits. You can, rally the entire team around yourself. So that is also kind of your bias, or the one whom you like. Usually they say resonate with your personality.
yeah.
So in a way, she also established that. Amazing interview tip. Yeah.
And the interviewer also notices that the person is a good observer. Like you walk into the room, you've read the room. So there's so many ways it'll help you if you do this. They have seen that you read the room, that you care about this interview, you're invested, and they're not bored. You're talking to some 300 or not 300, maybe 140 to 100 people depending on each school, and that's extremely boring. And I mean, it could be boring until you come across someone like this. So that's really nice.
I think we have one or two more questions, and we'll be in good time to wrap this up. So, Smriti Shah wants to ask you, when is a good time to start bench prep? When will they usually call, and when should we start preparing?
As soon as you finish applying in March, start preparing. Actually, whenever you can start preparation for your bench test, please prepare, because the more you practice, the better your skills get. So sometimes what happens is schools don't give you enough time for your bench. Maybe maximum of 3 to 4 weeks is what they would give you. Like after you interview, they would call you for a bench. So don't wait for them to call you for an interview or call you for a bench to start preparing for the bench test. Okay, keep preparing, because you're not going to lose anything. Only your dexterity is going to increase, right? You're going to get better at it with preparation. There's no negative thing about being prepared for your bench test. So whenever you can prepare, please do prepare. But ideal time would be along, like from March, please start preparing, because some schools will have a bench test in September, some will have in June, some will have in July. So start preparing. And it also depends on your skill as well. If you are somebody who needs a lot of preparation, start as early as you can. Or if you think you are very good at it and you just need 2 weeks or 3 weeks of brushing up, then that is fine as well. So you should be a judge of your skills for that.
So practice makes perfect, and that answered Smriti Shah's question perfectly. There's something I would like to read out to you here. Shreya has typed this out, very sweet of her. He says, "Hi Raksha, I met you at USC bench and was in the UCSF group with you. I think we've spoken before when results came out, and you were so helpful. Nice to see you here."
Thank you, Shreya. Nice to see you here too.
And hopefully, Shreya, next year we'll be seeing you where Dr. Raksha is currently.
Definitely.
On the other side, yeah, on the other side as a coach slash expert. Yeah, all the best. That applies to all of you. All the best to
Yes.
all of you. Pavni has one question. Okay. There is a myth regarding UIC that it accepts only US citizens or local students. I applied for last 2 years but didn't get an interview invite. Do you consider that I should apply this year?
I'm really sorry, I don't know about UIC because
Right.
I did not apply. So if Flynn or Meenakshi, if you both could talk about UIC.
I don't think that's a myth. I'm actually opening my notes as I speak. I think they have an actual requirement. Just give me a second. If I'm not wrong, because I remember Nourah's doing her orthodontics there. I remember speaking to her about this.
UIC, right?
See, because they specifically write on their website that they only accept applications from people who are currently living in the US on a valid visa. Oh, wait, your question is they say only local students, US citizens. Okay, you're asking whether like someone on a, let's say, a dependent visa can apply. Okay, that you can apply, I think, because like UPenn recently changed their requirement. I think what they want to know is whether you're, inside the country, able to, are you there? But if you're on a tourist visa, then I don't think you should apply because UIC does not accept them. So whatever written rules they have, right, that you can pay heed to, and you can go by that, because for you to be able to surpass, I mean, or bypass that written rule and get into school is very difficult. It's like a very, very small chance. So, but if you're a dependent, if that's a question, then I think you can apply. Again, like Raksha was talking about when I entered the call, I think about USC, right? These demographics can keep changing, their minds can keep changing. And I've also seen, actually, the first time Raksha and I spoke, we this is what we spoke about. We actually kind of ranted about it to each other because it's very difficult to convince people, but this actually happens. And we have also seen, like Meenakshi and I have also seen a lot of people get in with bizarre, like doesn't match the school's requirements, which are myths. But then what's on the paper, follow it. So I hope that answers your question about UIC, Pavani.
Family. Yeah. One last question. And that with that, I think we'll wrap up. We are ahead of, I mean, beyond our schedule. Anusha is asking if there are any sources for treatment planning type of questions in interviews. Anything that you followed or any tips you might have.
I There were no sources for the treatment planning that especially when I went for University of Washington, because there's one thing you need to understand, right? This is for an advanced standing program for international students. So the questions are same for Indians or people applying from Pakistan or any other country all across the world. So I don't think there is one particular set of follow this book for treatment planning and this should be done. So specifically when it came to University of Washington, they just wanted to know what is your approach to a particular tooth. So because at the end of the day, it is when you look at a tooth on an X-ray, so you need to come up with, okay, I'm going to do filling, or one person might say, no, I'm going to do an RCT. So they just want to know if you are conservative about it, or how you are going to deal with that particular tooth or that particular patient. I think that was what they were looking for specifically at University of Washington. But otherwise, I don't think there is any resource to to specifically answer to the treatment planning part of University of Washington. I mean, correct me if I'm wrong, both of you. So that is how I had approached the treatment planning. In Colorado University, they have this radiographic interpretation question where they'll give you a radiograph and they want to know how you are how you are able to look at a radiograph. Are you able to identify if it is maxillary or mandibular, or what tooth is it, or what is going on with that particular tooth, and they'll just ask you like, how are you going to treat it? So you could say, what are you going to do? You're going to excavate and then evaluate, or directly go ahead with this particular restoration or a root canal, or you could even say, I'm going to refer it to an oral surgeon or refer it to an endodontist. So they just want to know what is your thinking, like how is your approach to a particular case.
Okay.
I think there's no I think there's no right or wrong answer to that. They just want to know your approach to that particular case.
Got it. I hope that clarified Anusha's question as well. So basically, your experience and your perspectives.
Yeah. That's
Okay.
I think another thing, one thing when you're writing your treatment plan, make sure you're following the tooth numbering system that they follow. Don't write Zigbondi Palmer, or don't follow the FDI. That is what they follow. That is very important when you're doing when you're gearing yourself to practice in US, even to do your DDS or anything. Make sure the tooth numbering system is perfect, even when you're writing your treatment plan. Because even on the bench test, when they ask you to prepare so and so on tooth number 14. So it's not 1-4, it's tooth number 14. So that is those are small things that you need to make sure you're following.
Got it. I think that was a very, very informative session. some in a lot of ways for us as well. And thanks a lot, Raksha, for sparing time for us and for the community. All the best to you. Is there any way they can approach you for questions? Will you be available? Is there any medium? Do you have a handle or something that they can approach
Yeah.
you with?
Yes.
Yes,
You can
she
find
does.
me on.
Sorry. She is Dr. Falk. Okay.